Thank you for joining me. It's still TMI Tuesday, and I'm Philip Omo Gupon. I did say that we're going to be joining our voices on a couple of issues, which the first is on the coronavirus pandemic as it pertains to reopening of schools constraint. And also the second would be on the alleged anti-graft scandal that involves Ibrahim Magu, the suspended EFCC czar, and intrigues involving in that direction. All right, starting with me this beautiful Tuesday morning, the 14th day of July, from my extreme left, I have the General Overseer of Sword of Liberation Bible Church, Bishop Austin Igbasan. Thanks for coming, Bishop.
Thank you so much for having me.
And next, I have an educationist, a public affairs analyst, Osagie Godsent Erunse. Osagie Godsent Erunse is the president of AFED, that is Association for Educational Development, and also the executive director of African Emancipation Project. Thanks for coming, Osagie.
My pleasure again. Good morning, viewers. Thank you.
Has been over the news in respect of what the federal government did say concerning the guidelines provided for schools gearing towards reopening. But again, Bishop Austin Igbasan, these whole steps or guidelines or protocols, as we know and we're trying to adhere to, failed to provide the date, the resumption date for schools. Do you see this as a deliberate act from the federal government or an omission?
I will say it's just between two opinions. I believe that reopening of the school with the processes and the guidelines put in place, the school supposed to be reopened. Because the question is that there are people are going to market. Some children are in the market hawking. With the face masks we are talking about now, most of them are sold by children and women. So if people can go to market and go to other gatherings, nothing stops them. People say, oh, children, they will pick the sickness quickly and all that, the immunity and whatever. What I think is that if we put a modality in place, there are young people now that are standing at the ATM, that are sitting down, they follow the process. They wash their hands, they put their face mask and all that. And with the process, all these processes put in place, I think nothing stops the school of coming back when we adhere to this particular, because we can't keep the children sitting down like this forever. And if the pandemic we are talking about is not something that will fizzle in 3 weeks, that will disappear in 2 months. So today we are gradually opening our businesses, the airport and the rest of them, and people are gradually, yesterday now, the 3 hours have been reduced to 1.5 hours. But in catching your flight, there's a total compliance. I think what is important is compliance to this. If the modalities are set on ground for school to reopen and there is an enforcement on it, I think our children can come back to school. We cannot keep them at home forever. In as much we know that this pandemic is not something that will go so soon. So if we keep them at home and there is no proper arrangement made, these children will soon forget about everything they have learned for a very long time that they have left the school.
Okay, but quickly, if we look at that space and we look at the challenge of starting on a wrong footing, which I believe the federal government is trying to avoid, a situation where even the protocols of COVID-19 are not strictly being observed by we, the adults, talk less of the children. Don't you think that, again, is a challenge, like social distancing, use of face masks, and how possible would the children use this? Don't you think that's the line of thought that the federal government is causing the delay of reopening?
Children are more obedient than adults. As I'm talking to you now, I give you an example of children I have around me, even within the church system. Each and every one of them have more than 3 face masks. They put it in their school bag. Some put it inside their Bible. The children.
Okay.
So children believe whatever you tell them than adults.
Are you saying that they can use it?
They can use it. Most of the children use face masks.
Without touching the surface.
When you just tell children,
yes.
I tell you, when you just tell children, this thing is happening, like my little child now, is my little girl is about 6 years. She analyzed things about coronavirus that even I don't even know. 6 years old. When she's going anywhere, say, I go with my face mask, my sanitizer, you put it in your hand. Even the 7 steps they used to show on television, 7 steps to deal with coronavirus,
yeah.
She recited it like memory verse. So if we are opening gradually, all other aspects of the economy is being opened, the school should be reopened. What is needed is that the processes and the protocol must be followed. I think that the government is slack about it, because when this sickness came on board, and what health organization gave what we have on ground, I think what the government is supposed to do is to go into the drawing board quickly, because we knew that education is something that goes with a timeline, and we have exams that have timeline. Now you can start any business at any time, but that's not like a school. Now whatever happens with school goes with a calendar. And I think that there is supposed to be a kind of meeting where we discuss, what do we do about this? How do we enforce this? How do we go about this? And inside this meeting, quickly we take decision about the disease, what can be done, why we pursue. We are talking about livelihood and life, putting the two together. We are not going to drop one for the other. We are not going to drop life. We need life to have livelihood. And we cannot say livelihood should go and we stay alive. When we are going to stay alive, without livelihood, we can stay alive. So, since we knew that we need life and livelihood, the government must be able to proactively do some things that will make the school to be able to open.
Okay.
Following this guideline, fumigation of school, washing of hands, social distance, children believe more, children adhere more to whatever you tell them than adults.
Okay.
Children are easy to manage than adults.
Okay.
What you tell a child, that the child believes it. When an auntie tell a child something now, even when the child comes home, he will be telling the father that this is the. He will try to correct you. See, some of our children, they come back home to try to speak some Queen's English or speak phonetic English and say, this is how my uncle told me. They believe that whatever is they are told in school is authentic than what you are even telling them.
Thank you, Bishop. Well, let's get back to you, Sergey Godsent. You are an educationist. And we look at this line of thought by the federal government in reopening carefully, which is going to bring about staggering arrivals and staggering departures of students and pupils. Now, there's this fear by parents, some parents, over children starting right now. He mentioned a case of 1 in a million of his daughter, which is 1 in a million. Now, there are a lot of number of children that will find it difficult, which the federal government, I believe, is taking time to allow parents, allow schools to orientate their wards over this. Don't you think that is right at this time for the government to delay the reopening of schools?
Let me quickly say that, like the way Bishop started, I love it, he said it's between two opinions. You know, there are people that have argued to say our children needs to be safe. But let's put the cards on the table. Are the children safer at home than in school? Does these children live in the space or in the sky, or they live with people? Does these children have neighbors? Who are the first persons? You are a married man with kids. Who run to you when you horn at the gate? Who do you pick up? Your child. So probably you have contacted.
That was before the pandemic.
Even now, come on now. Even till now, you telling me that parents don't take their.
What precautionary measures just have been deployed?
You are not talking realistically.
I can speak for myself.
Okay, you can speak for yourself.
Precautionary measures are deployed, and rules are given even to your children in the pandemic on how to really approach parents when they come.
I'm very privileged to have first-hand reports on what is going on in the NCD Edo State chapter precisely.
Yeah.
You know, basically, it has been discovered that for every particular fathers that got it, most likely, one child or his wife or whatever is involved.
Okay.
So, realistically speaking, you can't tell me at this time that parents don't allow their children to hug them. They don't exchange money with them. They don't even give them a pack or a peck.
There could be cases.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Okay,
the cases could abound.
So what I'm trying to say in essence is, now, how do you now put them together? Because this same virus we are saying is living in school, probably. Or maybe they may contact in school. There is every possibility that they are likely going to contact it at home. Then again, there is also every possibility that they may get it in church. There is also every possibility that when they are playing with their friends, their neighbors, anything could happen. Children can pick up anything.
So how do we tackle this?
My point is,
because that begins a challenge before the federal government and also every parent and school proprietor or proprietress.
You know, I have always been an advocate that we try to hit the nail at the wall. What is happening educationally in this nation is one of the proof of misplaced priorities. I'm going to tell you, because it's not only the children resumption thing. I have a problem with the guidelines. I am not saying it is wrong to put guidelines in place. Okay? It's a complicated issue. Now, the children on one hand, the guidelines are there. I am the president of an educational association. I know how many bodies are met to say, what does it cost to get an infrared thermometer to fumigate a school? I had a fumigation expert certified by the Edo State government that told me 70,000 to 100K. You know? So now, at the end of the day, these same schools have been on break for like 4 months. We are not going into the welfare of the proprietor and proprietress and the teachers, who the government have neglected over time. But just this morning, there was an announcement that the government was going to give palliative to only one association. Only one association, when there are more than over 15 associational bodies in Nigeria.
In the educational sector.
In the educational sector, so to speak. On what basis? Is it on school approval or tax payment? We are here to clarify all of those issues.
Is it not possible that it will trickle down?
Now,
is it not possible that it will trickle down?
It will trickle down. We are looking forward to that. But on what basis? Now, these schools pay tax. Even in the midst of the pandemic, we were still called from tax office as at a month back. Yeah. In the midst of this pandemic. And we reacted and said we will lead a protest. We are human beings. We deserve to live. For 4 months, with wife and kids.
And it will be so unfortunate.
I want to also
even think of leading a protest, because at this point of the pandemic, protest could spike another wave of infection.
But don't also forget there have been political rallies, political meetings, political engagements.
Observing the protocols of COVID-19.
No observations. I was in one on Sunday. What are you talking about? We see it on maybe on camera. Behind camera, ceremonies are going on. Currently, the airport has been opened. Every aspect of the society is already being opened up, apart from education. And don't also forget that before this pandemic, Nigeria had the worst case scenario in the world of over 10 million children out of school. So there is already a prediction by experts that it could even be worse with the pandemic. So instead of the federal government and the state government finding a way to see how our children get back to school, they are busy giving excuses. For example, the state government should take the responsibility to fumigate all private schools in Edo State. And the basis of engagement should be the basis of taxation, not even approval from the Ministry of Education, because some people have approval, they are not even paying tax. My association have a lot of schools that do not have approval, but they are tax compliant. I've ensured that over 500 schools in this state are tax compliant. So how do you neglect such people that are not even the money bag in the educational sector? So that's the reason why I say there are a whole lot of issues. It's beyond the children thing. So I don't think that there is more coronavirus incident in the school than at home. That's my own opinion. Okay. I think that can be contacted anywhere.
I think let's find a way to nip this in the bud. Just like we always say that the government should be proactive and have that mental articulation to look at these protocols and find a way to reopen schools safely. What do you see as an agenda that could help the government in terms of reopening schools safely?
One of the agenda is that the reason why a school pays tax is helping the government to help the masses. Right. Now, if a school is paying tax, there's supposed to be a holistic view looking at the school that this has contributed to the economy of the state, and we must take this step. By now, I feel that the government part of the meeting they will have had is that one, the fumigation of school, especially private school, should be done by government.
By government.
Not the private school owners.
Should be done by the government.
Yes, by the government.
Is that not going to elongate the resumption date? Because you are looking at the number of schools in Nigeria.
You have local government chairman, you have councillors. Why are they there?
We have to delegate this power. You don't need to start doing a day, just a school per day. We have a lot of certified fumigation experts and their company that they can be contracted. Yeah. The Ministry of Works can also be given this job in conjunction with Ministry of Agri.
Okay.
And they will go around. We have all this staff all over that they will fumigate the school. That is why I'm talking of being proactive. Then secondly, the government ought to meet with the telecommunication industry within the time that fumigation will take place and all other procedure put in place for the resumption. The government must have spoken to the telecommunication industry. We want virtual learning, e-learning for the schools. Now, you should have come up even before now. Even before now. Have come up before now. I'm talking of being proactive. Okay. As soon as one organization came out and told us this pandemic is not something that has come to pass, it has come to stay. Now, the government is supposed to be proactive immediately and say, what do we do? Let's fumigate the schools. Then, secondly, let's talk to the telecommunication industry.
And fumigating the schools could take a period of time, like a month.
No, it's not even up to a month. You don't need a whole month to fumigate. Even
because if you look at the fumigation of markets, for instance, if you are to equate the number of markets to schools,
fumigation can even be done. It can be when you give it. We have so many people that can do it, and when they are doing it, it can even be done at night. Yeah. You can fumigate the school at night, fumigate some in the daytime, and you spread it across. It will also be a means of creating wealth for those people in that field, and also those people in Ministry of Agriculture and those are
means of employment down.
Yes, be a means of employment here and there. Then you now speak to the telecommunication industry that your social responsibility to the community. We want you people to give 10% of your airtime to schools. The government will bring out the list of the schools that are paying tax, and you talk to MTN, Globalcom, and all the rest of them. We want you to give 10% of airtime for their e-learning
to aid it.
Now that will be your own contribution, your palliative measure for education institution. Now, and the government will now sit down and say, 20% we are going to pay you, communication industry, for you to add 20% to whatever e-learning system of private and public school. Now, the private school now will not take the rest 70% as their responsibility, and now say, okay, you teachers that will be involved, a stipend will be paid by the parent that the children were at home. They will be able to do this e-learning while the government continue the fumigation and putting all the infrared something we are talking about. It is not difficult for government to purchase it.
Bishop Austin, if you talk about e-learning, how many pupils or students can be carried along? Now, you understand that we have some rural children.
Yes.
How do you carry them along?
Now, that will take us to an issue of bringing them, like those children that does not have a facility for e-learning in the rural area. Arrangement can be made on those schools where they will maintain social distance. After all, we have sanitary inspector, we have people in the health departments that can monitor. What we need is monitoring. When we spread them, like my brother has said here, I started by telling you that these children go to market. These children go play with their friends. So what is now special about the few hours they stay in the school? How many hours do they stay in the school? Now that you are going to say it is the school that will contaminate them. Okay. Now, if we are really proactive and the government is thinking straight, you can look, there's no synergy. Look at what we have in Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry, both the state minister and the senior minister. You can see there is no synergy. You see them saying different things. You can see how disorganized the education ministry in this country is, that we can even talk about what the minister of state is saying in the morning, the other minister came in the evening and terminated it and cancelled. You can see that there is quarrel, there is no synergy.
Okay, but there's this dictum that says that we disagree to agree. That could be the reason why all of this is happening.
If you look at it, the present minister was the minister of education the other time. He had a professor as a minister of state, and there is no love lost between them throughout that 4 years. The man is back there. The other person that is brought in now, you can see that even when the minister of state is talking analytically, when the man comes, he overrules. So he's talking about, we are talking about no focus, no synergy. If we quarrel, we must quarrel and arrive at a point that will make our nation to go forward. Okay. Now, any nation that does not pay priority on education has no future. Okay. All this rally we are going, our children are not going to rally. Go political meeting, our children not selling pure water, do all those kind of things, give it to people here and there, help me buy this one, follow mama put. Are they not children?
So they are equally exposed. Okay, how practicable is what Bishop Austin Obasanjo said?
Look at, we're on the same page. Like I've said, it's a misplaced priority. See, my heart, I'm afraid for the future of this country. Because no country has a future who does not place value or highest premium priority on its educational sector.
But you'll be wrong if you say that, because the country's government,
I won't be wrong, because
the country's government placed priority on the educational sector.
What is the roadmap?
Is that not why it's bringing out measures, bringing out steps, protocols to be observed?
You know the reason why we have not resumed school?
Don't you think that is in the right direction?
Can I tell you why we have not resumed school? Because of the government schools, not the private schools. The government schools are more at risk in the terms of managing the COVID-19 than the private schools.
If you look at rural areas, for instance, too, that could also be the reason why the federal government is trying to take some time to look at this.
I love what the president of ASU said.
Okay.
The federal government should take its own responsibility and do the needful first before trying to look at others. The reason why we are still starving, now we have been placed at the corner. Now, let me quickly say, because that's the reason why I said it's a compounded issue, and I really wish the media can give a topic of this paramount importance more attention. Because as I speak to you, even the teachers that will resume school to teach these children are not motivated. The school owners, some school owners are taking to selling pure water, taking balance and carry renters.
But you agree that the pandemic is a global kind.
No, it's a global kind.
And it's ravaging the world.
This is my point.
The world system seems to be failing over this.
You are not listening to
Nigeria is not peculiar.
You are not listening to us. If you listen to Bishop Igboafe, he brought out a semantics, like a system, a framework.
Yeah.
Okay, between the lockdown till now, what has been government framework for the educational sector? Now, the government wake up one day and say, go and put these things in place and resume. Do you know that the calculation we did to put those things in place in your school is about over 100,000 naira for people that have not gone to work for 4 months? Okay, secondly, what is the measure in place? I can also tell you that most of the mobile teaching they are doing is zero. It's not making any effect.
Absolutely.
Just a handful of the population are participating. It's not going anywhere. It's not the way out. Okay, now, secondly, if you say that the school must get infrared thermometer, get, fumigate and all of that, have you also created an intervention fund to say, okay, there's a way you can get soft loan to get these things in place for your school? We are talking about, you don't just wake up one day and say, go and open. What has the government done over time to manage this situation? As we speak, there are still some government schools that are yet to be cleared. There are still some government schools that is an ISO. Example, in your primary school, there is an ISO till date as we speak. So there is no priority for our educational sector. We live in a nation that prioritizes things that are non-essential to fundamentally essential issues. So I want to call on the state government and the federal government to begin to approach to declare a state of emergency on the educational sector. We cannot have an announcement today from one of the ministers, then in the evening another one is countering it. We are hungry. We are dying of hunger. We are citizens too. We deserve to live. Other sectors are open. What makes you think that the crowd in the market are more than the crowd in a particular school?
Thank you, Sergey Godsent. Well, a lot has been said here, and we could go on and on articulating this viewpoint. Bishop Austin Igbasan did share this, and of course, Osagie Godsent. Thanks for being on it. But quickly, we will be taking another turn to the issues about the anti-graft scandal involving the suspended EFCC chief, Ibrahim Magu, and the intrigues in it. We take some time out and we look at the issue, the petition submitted by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Malami, where he brought some allegations which President Muhammadu Buhari handed to the Justice Isa Ayosalami-led panel to investigate. And the allegations include alleged discrepancies in the reconciliation records of the EFCC and Federal Ministry of Finance on recovered loans, and also a declaration of 539 billion naira as recovered funds instead of 504 billion naira as earlier claimed. Now, if we look at this allegation and the history of the Cold War that seemed to exist between the Attorney General of the Federation and the suspended EFCC czar, what do you make of this? Do you see these allegations as tenable before the court?
Well, it is, when we talk about EFCC, you will discover that every person that had EFCC always is out of tension or allegation or one thing or the other. If you are from time immemorial, you see from the beginning, It's just funny that everybody that head EFCC are always from the north. I don't know why it has been like that. But that is a topic for another day. But I feel that the issue of Magu is something that was brought on board a few years ago. And there was a security report from the DSS that did not clear him. There are some things that were mentioned then. I felt that if the National Assembly stopped him at that time, and even the DGSSS, who is also a relation of the sitting president, now did not give him clearance, yet the president allowed him to sit down. Whatever they saw today as maybe corruption from Magu, I will blame the president for it. Because number one, when DSS did not clear someone, I think that man ought not to sit on that seat.
In the first case.
In the first case. That is, if we have done that one, if the president had hearkened to the 8th Assembly at that time, what we are saying right now would have been avoided because Magu will have not been the head of EFCC according to the clearance that was not given by DSS. If we have institutions, you know, Nigerians, we have strong men, but we have weaker institutions. If it is a matter of a strong institution, an institution like DSS does not clear a man, but a president went ahead, even when National Assembly as an institution did not clear such a man, one man above the whole National Assembly that is almost going to 500 human beings, quote and unquote, some of them have PhD, some of them are lawyers, some of them are retired police officers, now putting their heads together and say, one man is not cleared. And only one person decided to clear that person and in acting capacity against the Constitution of Nigeria. Then you look at it. In my place, you said a man has hunchback. You must look at his leg. It is not the back. It has started from the foundation. Okay. Magu is like a pioneer member of EFCC from time immemorial. I give it to him. He's a sound investigator, but he's not above the law.
I think that's what the president saw. You just said he's a sound investigator. I think that's what the president saw, and it has been the major plank of the president's agenda to fight corruption to a standstill.
What I say is that somebody that is a sound investigator does not need to head the FCC. Okay. He can be in a position where he will continue his investigation, but report to someone who will be above him, who will be able to checkmate him. EFCC on his own ought to have a different organ that checkmate EFCC as an organization. But you believe that EFCC...
But statutorily, the Ministry of Justice checkmates EFCC.
Let's leave Ministry
that's how it should be.
That's how it should be, that EFCC, because when you look at the act that established EFCC, and so many things attached, who checkmate EFCC? It's not about Magu. Magu also, if you remove Magu today, Magu has his boys there. He has been there in EFCC for a very long time. So it's not about suspending. And for now, I don't expect the federal government to suspend him. If they want to sack him, they should sack him. And not only sacking him, the directors of operation, you said director of operation should take over after Magu. All what Magu did was director of operation, not the man in the forefront of all what happened there.
So you fought the government in that direction?
Yes. If Magu is going to be suspended, all the directors that work with him, if there are discrepancies, let them be eased out. And also the Minister of Justice, now that is being, there is a counter accusation. Let the minister be eased out of his position. Let the minister be suspended so that another person can take over.
Do you mean the Attorney General of the Federation?
Yes.
Because
is he above the law?
He submitted the petition.
It's not above the law.
Okay.
But in the course of investigation, there is an accusing hand pointing to him. So he should be eased. You can't be a judge in your matter. You cannot be a judge in your own case. Justice Ayo Salami is a respected jurist, and all of us give hand for him. And we expected something that is sound from him because he has a track record. Okay. But Malamit should not be sitting as our minister. He should be eased out. He should be suspended. Let EFCC chairman be sacked. Let the directors also be eased out. If they are exonerated after the investigation, they can be brought back on board. But all the discrepancies, you can't remove director of operation. It is shameful that we have this kind of government that is fighting corruption, and the corruption is very bogus. Are you going to talk of NDDC?
Very obvious.
Very obvious everywhere. And yet, when we come with this corruption, look at all those corruption that are mentioned in different. It will be swept under the carpet. Look at the one of MTN the other time. The billions of naira. Today it has been buried because they have been able to study Nigeria that within a short while, Nigerians will talk about something and they'll forget about it. I can list more than 28 bogus. What of the one of Minister of Information? Has he not died natural death? So what are we talking about?
The issue of Magu is beyond Magu. Magu has so much secret in his hand. And so many people are afraid of him because he's a pioneer guy there, and he's a son. You can say, I'm not a Magus person, but give it to him. He's a sound investigator. He is not an English person. He may not speak plenty English. He cannot attend press conference. But as far as investigation is concerned, he's sound. He's not supposed to head the FCC. Somebody else, where he can report, he should be, if he wants to be there, he should report to somebody who will supervise his action and can be able to track whatever is happening.
Okay, so, there has been this struggle for supremacy, as reports have it, between the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, Malami, and the EFCC suspended ZAR. Now, look at this. Don't you see a situation where some political pundits are saying that this product, this revelation of what the allegations against Magu is as a result of some power play to ease him out? Because if you look at it critically, some say that an act of fighting corruption will always make corruption fight back at you. Don't you think that's the play out here?
Let me begin by saying that I have always held this opinion, and I'm sure some persons have also shared it. What we call corruption fight under this government, to me, is a scam.
That's your opinion?
That is my opinion. And I have facts and figures to prove that. You see? Now, let me quickly also say that somebody as highly placed in such a sensitive position as Magu, one would expect that he will step on many toes. And I don't want to go into what Bishop have addressed about how the 8th Senate on two occasions.
Okay, so witness is almost impossible. It's almost impossible to fight corruption without stepping on toes and without them fighting you back.
You see, you know what you call fighting corruption in Nigeria? Is exactly what the American government said before they released the last Abacha loot. They said they don't want a situation where returned looted funds are re-looted. That's what we are seeing, and that's what is playing out.
These are allegations. These are allegations.
Yes, these are allegations, but in the days to come, I'm sure Magu is going to review more revelations. We are going to see more revelations about this. Now, when you want to fight corruption, you fight corruption with solid institutions. It's not witch hunting. It's not fighting open somebody's corruption case today, and tomorrow when it decamps to your party, you suddenly close it up. That's not the corruption fight. Now, we are also aware, another area that I'm very concerned about is, do we have a man in charge in the Aso Rock? Because I want to call on the president of this country to take the responsibility for the dysfunctionality of his government. We are not only seeing...
Well, I think it would be wrong for you to say that. It would be wrong for you to say that the government is dysfunctional.
Is dysfunctional
because you can't say that. No, you can't say that because you have to make sure you verify your records before saying that.
These are the issues...
A lot you say here are yet to be verified.
Look at it.
So please be guided in your utterances.
Some of these things are things that have been reported by media that are in public domain. So I don't know which other verification you want me to do.
But I just want you to be guided in your utterances.
I understand why you're talking like this. In Nigeria, we're all afraid. No problem. We'll put the ball on the table. But what's the point? There have been leadership tussle before this one. We just mentioned the issue that is happening in the Ministry of Education. You could also recall what happened, I think it's between Boss Mustafa and one of the security agencies that accused him that a certain aspect of the security take directive from him. Now, we have been seeing this power tussle over time. There was even a time where the vice president had an issue too. They were asking, where's the vice president in charge of somebody else? Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because in the area of leadership tussle, this government has been dysfunctional and it's been there.
I think I have to stop you for now. I'm just talking for now because I keep saying this. No. Let's be polite let's be civil in our presentation.
Fine.
Now, the word dysfunctional can't be used in this context. What you need to do is make a point without necessarily casting aspersions or making negative remarks on the government.
Dysfunctional is not a negative remark. It's an English word. It only means a system that is not working well. Something is not working well. That's what it means. It's not an accusation. It's not.
Okay, back to the subject and round up on that.
Now, what I meant by that is that there is dysfunctionality in the system. Then there are powers that are supposed to handle those systems, to correct the dysfunctionality. Okay. That's what I mean. Dysfunctionality is not an insult. It's not an it's not a criminal word or an hate speech. It's simply saying that, okay, they have been dysfunctional. Now, one of the areas that I had in mind was, Who does the EFCC report directly to? It's still not clear.
It's still not clear. But statutorily, the Minister of Justice.
We cannot have continually, this is not the first, second, or third cases in this government, where two power figures are fighting over supremacy. And that's the reason why I'm saying that the president is in charge. So he should be able to call a spade and say, this is my stand on this matter. Okay. Now, we are not against the probing of Magu. If he's wrong, he should go in for it. Some of the revelations that are coming out are amazing. But what we are against is somebody trying to witch-hunt another because there is already counter revelations against the Minister of Justice. That's the reason why he was saying that the Minister of Justice should as well resign. So now, let me bring this to a logical conclusion. The point is, are we really in a corruption fight? Or we are really in a looting fight? These are questions that the common Nigerians are asking. Is it an issue of it's not getting to me, we are relooting? Or is it an issue of we are really fighting corruption? These are questions that must be answered, because when America said it, we said, they should go to hell, they can't tell us how to use Abacha loot. But it's here. When the 8th Senate said, the DSS have a strong allegation against Magu, it was swept under the carpet and said, I'm in charge, continue to act. Now we are beginning to dance to probably what the 8th Senate saw. You see, so are we really in a sincere fight of corruption? Let me land with this. Okay. We must empower our institutions. See, the best way all over the world, if you study how nations, the few nations that have been able to come out of corruption to a large extent, you notice that they fought corruption by strengthening systems, by ensuring that their systems are stronger than individuals. When you have a nation where individuals are more powerful than systems, then we are headed to nowhere. Two things that have happened to the corruption fight, and I'm going to give it to the party administration. The BVN is a fantastic, system to curb corruption. We are all aware of what the BVN have come to do. Then the single treasury account. These are systems, and there are more systems that will be put in place that in a short while, corruption will become a thing of the past. But when it becomes an issue of who is in charge, we are not near it.
So you mean the treasury single account, the TSA can also correct that?
Of course, that's a powerful system.
Okay, thank you. Bishop Austin Passon, let's get your thoughts on this. Now, the indictment of this investigation could be colossal, where important figures, names have been mentioned. Don't you see this as what could also go a long way in terms of the federal government not having the wherewithal to tackle this investigation if big names have been mentioned?
I think that is one of the reasons why Magu has not been allowed to go home and be coming to the panel to somebody like Magu. When you say power play, there's power play. Because if you see how Magu was arrested, yesterday the presidential spokesman said he wasn't arrested. How do you explain arrest? A man was going to First Headquarters, and you guys double cross him on the road and convert him to Aso Rock. What do they call that one? That's invitation on the road. And you divert his attention and you seize his right. What do they call that one? Some of us didn't go to school. So those who went to school will be able to analyze it. I just look at those who manage information for president. The way they talk at times, they talk, both Femi Adesinna and Garba Shehu, they talk as if Nigerians don't even have brain of their own. And they very, very insulting in their words. Even when they saw an error, they will insult the masses for it and go back and be doing makeup. Okay, those things.
Back to the point.
The arrest, Magu was arrested. It's not invitation. Because you don't invite somebody on the road. Magu, with his position in government, is somebody that can be sent a letter and given a time to come to Villa. You don't need to double cross him on the road. So that one also, double crossing him on the road gives a picture of something is wrong. Okay, are you saying Magu is going to run if you invite him to Villa? So why do we need to block him on the road? That one gives, and if he sends a signal that there is something, that is a power play somewhere. And don't forget that this government is a combination of almost 5 parties. And what is happening today, some of the areas where you see somebody saying something, the other person saying another thing, is that there are some power blocks. You have power blocks in this party, CPC, ACN, and all the rest of them. So everybody is pulling it to his side. That is why you can see that you have somebody who's the permanent secretary, he will say something different. His minister will come and say something different. A director will come and say something in one ministry,
which doesn't give synergy.
Yeah, in this education, this Ministry of Education. You remember the time of Unity School, When PS is saying something different, minister is saying something different, senior minister is saying something in the same ministry. How do you explain this? And who is supposed to be in charge? Now, Magu is only somebody that want to deny it, that will say Magu does not have data of so many people because he has been there for long. He started the trial of those ex-governors. He was the one that started the investigation of those ex-governors. So many secrets are in his hand. And for somebody like him, I think the way they started it shows that there are some persons, we know he has stepped on many toes, but don't also forget that Magu also misused the power in his hand. Now, there are some excesses. I've seen the EFCC donating house for Lagos State government for isolation center. I don't know the act that give EFCC that power to donate a house that was recovered as a loot to a state. I don't see the act that established EFCC giving them such authority that this house of so man will sow it as a seed, use it for isolation center. That is excesses. Now, Magu is not above the law. He's not above the law. We are not saying he can be invited, he can be interrogated, and he can be prosecuted. He's not above the law. But the way they are going about it send a signal that there are some people who felt this guy has stepped on our toe and he must be paid. Now, and don't also forget that the guy will start talking. And when he start talking, if somebody like Magu decided to start talking, you might not have a government. If the man begin to open his mouth, okay, look at what is happening in NDDC.
Are you talking about in the area of indictment?
Yes, if he wants to indict people, what he has in his hand, you know, you compare somebody like Magu to somebody like Engineer Obaseki, who was former GMD of NNPC, who happened to start NNPC with his ID card as 006. So those people knew the foundation, and when he came to power, you saw how the man performed, because you can see that he's a pioneer person. He talked from the tip of his finger. He's not somebody that was born from somewhere who will be talking from the blues and doesn't know what he's talking about. So somebody like Magu knew people who call themselves white and they are black. He has so many details about people who we are celebrating today who ought to be behind the bar. So don't forget that those secrets alone are one of the reasons why they don't allow Magu to have his freedom, because the law says whatever is the sin of Magu, within how many days will he be under custody, we should be charged to court, he should have his freedom of right and all the rest of them, freedom of movement, and you can call him to interrogate him, but you know that they knew that somebody of Magu's status and the information and what he knew and what he has investigated, if it is not properly handled, the way they are going about it, he has started with Minister of Justice. Maybe he will start with another person and start mentioning A, B, C, D, E, F. The man he has stayed too long there. He knew so much.
Over 4 years.
Okay. So what I feel is that it must be properly handled. Okay. And it will not be swept under carpet. We are not happy now. We expected the public hearing to be shown live.
Of course.
It's supposed to be beamed live. But the way the government is going about it now, it's being done in secrecy. Today I give you an example. Freedom of Information bill was signed into law. Today the name of looters we are not aware. How much was returned individually was not announced. And yet we are in a country where we have freedom of information. In America, you can access any information. You don't need to be anybody before you access it. So today we say we brought back, we have recovered how many houses? Who were the people that brought the house? Nigerians are supposed to be fed with this information. If we have this information, a lot of people in government today will be inside prison.
Okay, we heard much about the anti-graft scandal and the intrigues involved, the power blocks and all that, but as we round off, Osagie got sent. What do you make of the present leadership? Talking about Umar Mohammed, who was the head of operations EFCC, that's now the acting chairman. Let's look at the way forward, going forward in terms of not avoiding issues about this scandal that could go a long way to make public confidence lost. What do you see as the agenda for the present EFCC?
Let me quickly say that he has to be able to convince the ordinary average Nigerians about his credibility. Because we are wondering how Magu would have been involved in all of these alleged mess without the help or the support or the collaboration with his operatives. So that is becoming something. That's the reason why I said we cannot be treated like people that cannot rationalize or think. We didn't go to school for nothing. And also, let me quickly say that this is an opportunity for the government of the day to prove to Nigeria that the fight against corruption is sincere. If Magu is guilty, then let him go in for it. Nobody is saying Magu should be exempted. But also, they should not try to cover up, like what is currently happening. I'm happy you made mention of that, because I was going to say that. The public, something that's supposed to be public, the proceedings, is already being taken into secrecy. Now that alone is enough for me to start doubting the credibility of the panel, or what's going to come out.
But don't you think that there are modalities that must be followed in terms of those issues? Because now is before the Isa Salami-led leadership. And if you look at that, we look at the issues surrounding this. Can you not say that some laudable efforts from the federal government is being seen, most especially where even within his government is exposing such issues about the officers? Don't you think that's a laudable one for the federal government?
It's one thing to expose, it's another thing to prosecute. So I think it's too early to give credit to the federal government. Because it's one thing to expose, it's another thing to prosecute. There have been people in this country that have been exposed on Corruption Act. Today they are free. Okay. They're still working freely. Then let me also quickly say that it is important we realize that Nigerians and the global communities are watching. We are calling on the government to ensure that nothing is swept under the carpet. Even the persons, because we are sure that in the days to come, there will be more revelations. Magu is going to be naming people. He's going to be naming names. If he's not under duress, or if he's not threatened. Because you could also remember, if you're talking about modalities, what was the modalities in picking him up? Was there any modalities where he was picked up like just an ordinary or a common prisoner, or taken to arrest, and he was in custody for like 3 days, and you say he was not arrested? So, but the point is, we should be able to be very transparent. We should be able to bring things, this matter have got into the public domain. Then let it roll on publicly. There's no need to be hiding anything. So the federal government have an opportunity once again to prove to Nigerians the sincerity of the fight against corruption. Otherwise, some persons like me will continually hold the opinion that it's a scam. Following the history of the fight against corruption. People should not only be exposed and indicted, if they are guilty, they should be prosecuted. That's my stand. Okay,
let's look at the present leadership of Umar Mohammed, who is now the acting EFCC chairman. What do you make of his leadership, and to avoid issues about what just came up in the presence of his predecessor?
I give you an example of when you talk about exposing, that this government is exposing people working with him, working with them, in corrupt activities or practices. They are not. It is we masses who have refused to close our mouth that are exposing. I give you an example of Babache Lawal. We shouted even on this station. I came to talk, we set up a rally. It took the president almost 9 months to intervene in that matter. And after that intervention of easing the Babache Lawal out of that position, his own cousin was put there. And what was the reason of putting his cousin? What has come out of Babache case till today? So putting Umar in position of Magu as a former chairman, he is going to wedge his back. He's going to cover his back. It's an intrigue. You can't bring somebody like Umar to come and head it. I give you an example of Babache Lawal. Babache Lawal, has he been sent to prison? Or that bogus allegation and all the rest of them? Do you want his cousin, who is now the Secretary of Government of Federation, to send his brother to jail? Is it that there is no human being also from anywhere in the north who can be SDF apart from the cousin of the man that was alleged? Kemi Adeosun has a little issue here. She was issued out because of the tribe she came from. All of us knew here the fact and figure what Kemi Adeosun stood for this country, stabilized us at a threatening time. And also at the end of the day, the lady was complaining of figure in NNPC between FAC and the rest of them. As soon as they ease her out, what happened to those figures till today? Has anybody been arrested in NNPC? Has anybody been arrested about those figures that Kemi Adeosun was complaining about? It has died a natural death. It is a game. Even for Magu not to be released, to be free now, it is going to be a negotiation. A lot of people are involved. Of course. So what are we talking about? We're talking about fighting corruption. Now, if we are going to fight, really, we thank God for somebody like a Justice Salami. But this kind of investigation is supposed to be beamed live.
Yes, of
to show that there is no sacred cow, to show that I am for everybody, I am for nobody. Let Magu stand, let his accusers stand, let camera and all the journalists in the world, including World Press Conference, everybody attend. What is so secret about it?
What makes you think that won't be done?
When? After political settlement?
Okay.
After political
He
settlement?
has been told what to say.
Now, when we have said, okay, this is what we're going to do, okay, go back and see no more. This is going to be easy. I'm asking about corruption. Who invited Maina to this country? The woman that stood against that case and said, it was the president, I warned him verbally. What happened to that woman? Was that woman not set up and sent out of the government? So, how do you define corruption? When a woman said, sir, I warned my president about bringing Maina, then the same president issued 24 hours that people should furnish him on how Maina came. Now, who is being deceived? Who is being deceived? Is it the master? The man that fired people is the same person who invited the man and promoted the person. Today we are talking about Lamode, who had EFCC. Do you see know that Lamode is still in service today? Who will ever believe with the bogus allegation and everything then that Lamode will still be in service? So what we are saying is that the sincerity,
in the fight.
The sincerity in the fight.
And this will end public confidence.
It will not, the secrecy, the secrecy.
But if they are sincere in the fight, it will end public confidence.
That is if they are sincere. The sincerity is that the guy should be, it should be open.
The secrecy is already making us confident.
Everybody is suspended. Why do you keep Magu incommunicado? Why did you have to keep him under detention? If really he has so many things he need to answer, why would you put the next man to him to take over that place? It is to cover his back. And I've given you illustration about how it happened in this government. You remember Ibe Kachuku complained of the late MD of NNPC. What happened to that allegation? The memo that was sent to the president, when it got leaked to the press, what happened? Is it not Ibe Kachuku that was asked to apologize? What happened to the late Baru, who was in charge, that the guy indicted?
Okay.
What happened?
Okay, your final words.
My own is that Nigerians are watching. Not only Nigeria. Because Nigerian has been taken for granted. They knew that nothing will happen if they shout after 2 days. But the world is watching us. That the first hunter of corruption is under detention now. And whatever has happened must be transparently shown to the world. Tomorrow, if Transparency Organization, Transparency International says something, they say they are biased. Why would they not be biased when this kind of thing is happening? Look at NDDC. Look at the Minister of... As at this moment, a sitting president must have attended to this NDD's bogus issue. But this matter is going...
Thank you for taking our time.
Under this particular thing, under this particular Magu's matter, it should be made public.
Okay.
Nothing should be swept under carpet. Magu should be made to face the law if he has done wrong. And anybody indicted in this matter, nothing should cover them. The power block within the APC is pulling a different direction, and that is what you see about Magu.
Okay. Your final words without aspersions.
Let me quickly say that the world is watching. Nigerians are watching. It is time for us to define the sincerity of this fight, because it's already in question because of the secrecy. I want to call on the federal government. Anybody that will be indicted in the course of this probe should go in for it. And we don't want Magu to finally come out and release an already scripted press release. Because that's exactly what we are thinking. You can see what happened between Festus Keyamo and the Senate. When he said, no, if you have indicted me publicly, you should leave the cameras. Why are we going into executive sessions? So these issues begin to breed distrust. So you can't meet me tomorrow and say, why will I distrust the government? When there are facts and evidence.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergey Godsend, for taking our time to be here. Sergey Godsend is the president for Association for Formidable Education and Development, AFED, and also executive director of African Emancipation Project. And of course, big thanks to you, Bishop Austin Igbasan, for taking our time. Bishop Austin Igbasan is the GO of Sword of Liberation Bible Church. And just to let you know that all opinions shared on this platform are the opinions of the makers and not of independent television. Till we do this again, same time, but don't forget that shortly, it's still this morning on ITV, we take a short break. Do stay.